When it comes to the villains faced by the Batman family, some form of physical disfigurement is commonly the key to unlocking the evil inside of them. A face being horribly scarred with acid causes a noble man's psyche to shatter in two. An accident of science causes a loving husband to be forever left cold to the world. But what happens when a terrible disfigurement lets out the worst from somebody who is already deeply immoral? His name is Torque, and I can't wait to tell you more about him on this episode of Lesser Evils. Originally known as Dudley Soames, Torque first appeared in Nightwing number 1 from 1996. Holding the position of inspector in the Blüdhaven police department, the legendary Soames was known as the dirtiest of dirty cops who played both the police and the criminal underworld for his own benefit. When the B-list supervillain known as Blockbuster secretly usurps the position of Blüdhaven's most powerful crime boss, Soames is one of the few who are privy to the change in management. After a number of bodies with broken necks wash up in the Gotham harbor, Batman sends Nightwing to Blüdhaven to investigate their source. Nightwing quickly gets to business, making an impression on the local criminal element. When the chief of Blüdhaven police hears there is a vigilante in his city, he calls in Dudley Soames to take care of the problem. Both men are surprised when just then Nightwing walks into their precinct to turn in evidence. The chief feigns greeting Nightwing before slapping on some cuffs, while Soames puts the barrel of his gun to the vigilante's head. Soames takes Nightwing to a landfill with orders to kill the man. But seeing an opportunity to use the hero for his own goals, Soames lets Nightwing go, insinuating that he is actually a good cop. He then gives the hero a lead on a rival crew working for Black Mask. Soames ends the meeting by establishing his alibi and letting Nightwing hit him to make the story more believable. When Soames reports to the police chief that Nightwing got away, the chief angrily asserts that Nightwing is Soames' responsibility. Nightwing soon decides to move to Blüdhaven and improve Gotham's neighbor city, who has an even worse reputation. He emails Soames to arrange a meeting where he accuses Soames of sending him to the meat grinder with his lead. Soames listens as Nightwing accuses him of keeping secrets and playing all the sides against each other. Later, a crew of Black Mask's men angrily confront Soames about Nightwing showing up at the scores that they were pointed to by Soames. Calling the group's leader a child, Soames explains how they will be used to send a message just as a giant shadow appears behind the men. The bodies of the Black Mask gang members are discovered later, with all of their heads twisted backwards. Sometime later, Nightwing interrogates the lawyer of the crime boss who had gone missing. When Nightwing lies and claims to work for Soames, the lawyer becomes terrified and confesses the information that he knows. When Soames eventually learns of this, he chastises the lawyer before realizing the man is a liability and coldly murdering him. Things really begin to spiral out of Soames' control when the body of the missing mob boss is discovered lodged in a barrel addressed to the police chief. Blaming Soames for all of his recent problems, the chief demands the inspector return things to the status quo. Soames meets with Blockbuster in the man's office and questions his boss's choice to reveal the body the way he did. Blockbuster dismisses Soames' concerns, noting that it is the inspector's job to handle such things. Blockbuster then takes a moment to remind Soames who is in control of the city. The pair are interrupted by the arrival of Nightwing, who notes that he was almost convinced Soames had been the mysterious crime boss all along. Blockbuster steps out of the shadows and attempts to crush Nightwing with his superhuman strength. Soames stands in the background as Blockbuster gains the upper hand, but when the mob boss moves to kill Nightwing, Soames threatens to shoot Blockbuster in the head. A raging Blockbuster prepares to kill Soames for his threat, until Soames reminds his boss that if Nightwing's head gets turned the wrong way, that will bring Batman, and nobody is ready to deal with Batman. Regaining his composure, Blockbuster drops the unconscious Nightwing. The two determine that the hero needs a death that will not bring suspicion on them. The idea they come up with is to leave the vigilante to be murdered by a gang of vicious bikers. Unsurprisingly, an entire gang of bikers don't equal one Nightwing, and when the group report their failure to Blockbuster, the crime boss tears down a pillar to collapse the building on top of all of them. Soames stands outside and watches the building fall down as Blockbuster walks out unharmed. The crime boss orders Soames to hire someone to murder Nightwing. The person Soames would end up calling turns out to be the Scarecrow. After Nightwing does what he's done before and apprehends the Scarecrow, Soames would later be woken up from his sleep to discover the villain tied up in his apartment with a message for him. Soames processes the situation and chooses not to murder the Scarecrow before leaving the man tied up where he is as he heads to work. When Soames turns to the police chief for help, he is rebuffed, the years of taking advantage of the police department coming back to bite him. The chief gives Soames 12 hours to turn himself in before they come to get him. As promised, Blüdhaven police would bust into Soames' apartment later, where they would find the restrained Scarecrow and just miss Nightwing. When Soames attempts to meet up with Blockbuster, he is surprised to instead be met by a trio of the crime boss's guards. Realizing immediately the men are there to kill him, Soames proves he's no chump by making the first move and easily takes out the group of his would-be assassins. Soames eventually tracks down Blockbuster while he is visiting his mother in her retirement home. Soames holds Blockbuster at gunpoint and questions why his boss wants him dead. Blockbuster casually reveals that all the crimes that can be connected to him go away if Soames dies. Before either villain can make a move, Nightwing comes crashing through the window. Soames loses his potential backup when Blockbuster has his men threaten some of the other elderly residents, causing Nightwing to leave and protect the innocent people instead of the criminal who deserves what's coming to him. Soames manages to fire 4 hollow point bullets from his gun before Blockbuster smashes him into the ceiling. The last thing Soames remembers after that is Blockbuster's hands reaching for him before the crime boss brutally twists Soames' head backwards. When medics arrive later, they discover that Soames is still alive despite his new spinal arrangement. Soames is later taken to a hospital where he is hooked to life support. The doctors explain how he is 100% paralyzed and has to be kept in a coma. After having done everything they can for the former inspector, the doctors turn Soames over to a specialist named Dr. Pavar for an experimental treatment. After faking Soames' death using the corpse of an unidentified man, Soames is brought to a specialized rehab facility where Dr. Pavar uses microsurgeries to restore Soames' mobility. When Soames wakes up after the surgery, Dr. Pavar tells him he suffered a bad neck injury. Before he passes out again, Soames asks why they couldn't have let him die. Sometime later, Dr. Pavar reveals to Soames that though his physical therapy will begin soon, his head will never face the right way again, causing Soames to curse the doctor. When his physical rehab starts, Soames is forced to relearn simple actions like walking, but pushes hard and makes great progress in a short time, all while refusing pain medication, believing he needs to keep his head clear. Soames' last visit with Dr. Pavar ends with him murdering her, explaining that he blames Blockbuster for his condition, but that she made his life even worse. With the doctor dead and armed with special rear-view glasses, Soames feels it is time for his revenge. Escaping the hospital, Soames makes his way to Blüdhaven, promising that the dying will soon begin. Soames holds true to his word and begins dropping bodies all over Blüdhaven full of bullet holes, as well as leaving pieces of paper containing palindromes, words and phrases that read the same backward and forward. Using a Thompson .45 caliber machine gun, Soames would later mow down the patrons of a bar Nightwing used for information, before leaving another palindrome behind in the carnage. Soames shows some uncanny timing when he interrupts the vigilante Huntress being questioned by an undercover federal agent. When the undercover agent asks who Soames is, the backward-headed man answers that he can be called Torque from now on. Torque then opens fire with his Thompson, intending to leave bodies as a message. His aim gets thrown off when the Huntress sends a pair of boot knives deep into Torque's leg. As Torque moves to escape, Nightwing arrives on the scene. Seeing the hero behind him, Torque lays down suppressing fire, leaving Nightwing to distract his pursuers. Returning to his current base, Torque adds the Huntress's name to his list of people to kill. He then proceeds to grit his teeth and remove the knives stuck in his thigh bone. The following night, Torque tracks down his original target to where they are hiding, and sneaks up on both Nightwing and Huntress while doing so. While the two vigilantes are busy distracting the guards, Torque sneaks around in the background. Inside the hideout, the recently discovered federal agent works to escape when Torque appears in the doorway and assures that no one is getting away. After securing the two men and covering them with kerosene, Torque explains how they will be a message for their boss, then leaves a palindrome written on the floor in flames. Finally meeting the mob boss that he had been searching for, Torque describes how his new condition has given him a new perspective. He then opens fire on the criminals and declares that Blockbuster is next. Torque turns his attention to the Huntress running around above him as Nightwing moves to attack the shooter but skids to a stop when he discovers that it is the supposedly dead Dudley Soames. Excited to kill Nightwing, Torque turns his machine gun towards the hero, but just then the Huntress cuts a securing cable on some pipes, burying Torque underneath tons of construction debris. As Torque digs himself out of the rubble, a group of Blockbuster's men arrive looking for survivors. Torque gets the drop on them and murders the entire group before escaping. Blockbuster soon suffers a heart failure due to his mutated condition. Seeing an opportunity, the criminal organization known as Inner Gang makes a move on the city. Looking to take control of Blüdhaven for himself, Torque kidnaps the lawyer representing Inner Gang's business and works to fake the man's death by blowing up his office. But before he can do so, Torque finds Nightwing there, accompanied by the Blüdhaven vigilante who calls himself Nightwing, which won't be confusing at all. More than happy to kill two heroes with one bomb, Torque tosses a lit bundle of dynamite at the pair before rappelling away from the explosion, cackling like a madman. Fuck, I love comics. Back at his hideout, Torque convinces the inner gang lawyer to help him, using some fancy shooting with a nail gun, demonstrating how good his aim still is despite his condition. Soames eventually has the lawyer get his inner gang bosses on the line before he takes over and introduces himself as the man who will help them control Blüdhaven. Inner gang and Torque come to an agreement on terms, and when a new gang attempts to fill the void in the city's criminal underworld, Torque makes an explosive example of them with his new inner gang bazooka. When the inner gang members accompanying him question such a loud message, Torque counters that if the gang wants the city, they will do things his way. Dudley Soames' next visit is to the Blüdhaven Police Department, and is sitting in the police chief's chair when he is discovered by the corrupt detective who has taken up his former role as inspector. Threatening the inspector with his new gun, whose capabilities he claims to not even know, Torque begins questioning the officer in his former position. Apparently not liking what he was hearing, Torque blows out a nearby wall and takes the terrified inspector as his hostage. As Torque fires down on the police officers below him, a sniper unit takes up position on a building across the street, lining up Torque in the rifle sights. But the villain is ready, firing a flare round from his gun and blinding the unsuspecting officers, noting that he is able to watch his own back. When the inspector's cell phone begins ringing, Torque answers it, asking who he is speaking to. The caller turns out to be the newest chief of police, who asks Soames what he wants. Torque shouts back, describing how he wants everything. Feeling unkillable, Torque puts his successor back on the phone just as Nightwing arrives and tackles the psychopath. Nightwing smashes Torque's face into a wall to stun the man, but as the hero moves to grab the villain's special gun, he is fired upon by the police chief's secretary. This leaves enough time for Torque to retrieve his weapon and immediately vaporize the unfortunate secretary. Enraged by the woman's murder, Nightwing pummels Torque to the ground. But before Nightwing can finish the villain off, Torque uses his special gun to push the inspector over the edge of the broken floor. As Torque predicted, Nightwing leaves the villain to rescue the inspector. Returning to his feet but missing his special eye gear, Torque begins firing wildly at the returning Nightwing with a firearm that is rapidly overheating. Torque's mayhem is put to a stop when he takes a shotgun blast from an arriving Blüdhaven police officer. The officer marches Torque out in handcuffs, the villain complaining that his ribs are broken. Soames is eventually taken to prison, where he arrives at his cell to discover he has a bunkmate, who happens to be the name-copying vigilante Nightwing. Remembering the young man from their earlier encounter, Soames begins planning their escape. During his time in prison, Soames educates Nightwing on Blockbuster, and manipulates his cellmate into thinking he had a change of heart thanks to the new way he looks at life. He bonds with Nightwing by manipulating the young man's hate for the real Nightwing. Convinced he has an ally, Soames reveals that he has a plan to leave the prison. Soames explains that his plan is to use the newest security guard, the reformed and medicated former Batman villain known as Amygdala, to facilitate their future escape. The key to that plan involves Soames visiting the prison's doctor, during which Nightwing arrives faking an overdose. Soames utilizes the distraction to find a medical book to find the counter to the medication keeping Amygdala peaceful. Using a prison drug dealer, Soames obtains the necessary drugs and arranges for them to be placed in Amygdala's meal. When Amygdala eventually consumes the drug-laced meal, the sick man regresses back to his uncontrollable rage, forcing the prison security to gather to stop him. Soames and Nightwing wait patiently for their moment to escape, and it comes when Amygdala's rampage accidentally sets the prison on fire and firefighters are called in to handle the situation. Seeing their opportunity as a group of firefighters enter the cell block, Soames and Nightwing ambush a pair of the men and sneak away while they steal their victim's gear. The pair then stumble out of the prison, faking smoke inhalation. As the medics on scene move to help the men, they remove Soames' mask to discover his duplicity. The pair knock out the surprised medics before stealing their rig and brazenly escaping by crashing through the front gate. The police put out a notice for Soames' escape, while he and Nightwing set up a new base to plan their next move. But at the same time, Nightwing begins to understand that the two of them are not on the same page. When Nightwing comments that Soames uses guns, which heroes don't do, Soames counters that he never said he was a hero. Casually aiming his firearm at Nightwing, Soames explains how they would be cleaning up the city by taking it over. He offers Nightwing a chance to make the rules and control crime. Nightwing understands that Soames means to make money off of crime, and decides that he wants to fight evil, not become it. Now realizing he had been tricked, Nightwing prepares to attack as Soames takes aim with his gun. The aftermath of this moment is not shown, but a series of shots are fired. Sometime later, police are alerted to Soames' hideout, where they discover Soames' corpse, the cause of death being 2 bullets to the chest. That was in 2003, and Torque has not appeared again since. So why do I like Torque and think he's worth taking a look at? Dudley Soames showed many characteristics that I love to see in characters. First off, he demonstrated that he had an indomitable will, that inner drive to push forward no matter the setback. Soames didn't flinch when all of his allies turned on him. Instead, he personally took his complaint straight to management, who happened to look like this. After his head was twisted around, he relearned how to use his body in seemingly a few months through sheer willpower and thirst for revenge. He makes Batman's broken back look like a sprained ankle. Next, Soames proved remarkably capable both before and after his unique spinal realignment. He manipulated police and criminals for years to his own benefit and developed a notorious reputation while doing so. When a superhero shows up in his city, Soames didn't panic, but instead saw an opportunity. After his change, Soames seemed to reach a new level of effectiveness, frequently getting the drop on his opponents, even trained heroes like Nightwing and the Huntress, all while somehow maintaining and upgrading his vision apparatus. Finally, Torque didn't suffer the weaknesses of other villains from Gotham and Blüdhaven. While he had a shtick, it was unobtrusive, and he never even explained why he did it. He wasn't obsessed with it, he used it more as a calling card. Likewise, Torque didn't hyper-focus on Nightwing, but kept his eyes on the prize of getting revenge on those that betrayed him and taking control of Blüdhaven. While he was by no means a criminal mastermind, Torque proved that he was someone who could think outside the box, as well as create his own opportunities. Torque was not a perfect villain by any means. For all the praise I've heaped on him, he folded like a paper bag in a fistfight and was murdered in a sewer by his own lackey. But I think Torque had that special something that makes him memorable and someone to fear. A ruthless psychopath who needs no one because he is more than capable of watching his own back.